Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio by Sambo and Johnny. How are you, chaps?
Very
fantastic.
well.
I like
That's
how we
good.
both paused and then still spoke at the
And
exact
both
same
spoke
time.
over the top of each other. It's the courteous thing to do.
It is. It really is.
Chaps, another week has flaked off the thick outer shell of the 2024 AFL season. Gross. And it has brought with it a nice game for the Cats. We're going to talk all about that on tonight's episode. That is the Cats v Bombers round 16 recap. And once we've done that, we're going to duck over and talk to our Hoops Crew Patreon subscribers about Sam de Koning as a ruck. Our expanded on thoughts on that. Do we like it? Is it a good solution? Particularly given the fact that Toby Conway is now going to be injured for a little bit by the look of things. Reece Stanley didn't play the last quarter of the VFL and, hasn't necessarily been in the greatest form. So we'll get into all that for the Patreon subscribers as usual. If you want to hear and listen, if you want to hear and watch that part of the show, go on over to the Hoops Crew Patreon, sign up for a 7-day free trial, extended bonus coverage of the Cats. My VFL recap just went up over there on the Patreon, so you can get all that. Go and do that. We're trying to hit 30 Patreon subscribers before the end of the men's season. We're only 5 away. So if you love what we do here, if you love what we do on all the Hoops Crew stuff, then get over and support that. One more quick bit of business to attend to, and that is to thank the glorious people over at Valhalla Brewing, the sponsor of the Hoops Crew Media Network. Valhalla Brewing. If you are in Geelong and if you find yourself most specifically in North Geelong, you can walk on over to the brew hall, which sounds like a fun place to go to me, a brew hall. If you're in the CBD, you can get along to the tap room. Sounds slightly more sophisticated than a brew hall. See, it seems like there's catering for both. You want to get on the brews, go to the brew hall. You want to sample a few lovely local brews, go down to the tap room. Valhalla Brewing, we thank them for their support of our show and, of course, the entirety of the Hoops Crew Media Network. But now, chaps, we get into it. Round 16. Can't believe we're here, really, to be honest. Round 16. It has gone by in an absolute flash. And we're going to start off with a recap of how the game against the Bombers unfolded. Back and forth contest in the opening quarter. It was the Bombers who hit the front early with a goal after, 5 minutes to Jade Gresham. But 90 seconds later, Mitch Duncan benefited from a glorious switch in play from Zach Tui to put the Cats on the board. The Cats got another one through Shannon Neal to take the lead. The Bombers kicked 3 in a row to Peter Wright, Jake Stringer, and Jake Stringer again to hit the front. But the Cats got the last one of the first term to peg it back via Max Holmes to go down 3-2-20 to 4-2-26 at the first change of ends. The Bombers came out of the gate with the first goal of the second quarter to Zach Merritt, their 5th goal of the game. Crazy to think that when he kicked that goal and turned around and gave it a bit of shtick to Tom Atkins, who was tagging him a bit on the night, the Bombers would only kick another 4 goals for the rest of the evening after the 1 minute 9 second mark of the second quarter. Pretty crazy stuff. The Cats got a goal via Jeremy Cameron around the 12-minute mark of the second quarter. The Bombers responded with Nick Hind kicking a goal on 16 minutes, but then the Cats went back-to-back with Jack Bowes and Ollie Dempsey before Peter Wright put the Bombers back in front at halftime. Essendon led 7-3 45 to 6-4 40. Cats and Bombers traded goals early. In the third term was Blixarves and Guelphy scoring within about 2 minutes of each other. And then the Cats took control of the game. It was Tyson Stengel, Gary Rowan, Ollie Dempsey, and Tyson Stengel again in the space of 10 minutes, who put 4 unanswered goals on the board for the Cats to finish out the third term. They took an 11-6 72 to 8-3 51 lead. At the final change, they added the first 2 goals of the final quarter to Brad Close and Jeremy Cameron. The Bombers got one back, but that was all the scoring of majors the Bombers would do for the rest of the night, as the Cats added 3 more to Gary Rowan, Tyson Stengel, and Mitch Nevitt to seal up a 16-9 105 to 9-6 60 victory. Johnny, I'll come to you first. Your general thoughts on what was a very, very nice result indeed for the mighty Cats.
Very, very pleasing victory for the Cats. Very well played out. I thought it was pretty close and tight in that first half. But I also had a sense that the Cats just felt they were getting a little bit on top towards the end of that second quarter in a way. Sort of felt like they were really starting to work well together. Moved the ball clean, smoothly, silkily. Like some of those passages of play were just like, this is what we've been missing. This is what had been missing the last 2 months from the Cats. Just that ball movement, the way they were running for each other, using each other, hitting each other perfectly most of the time. And just, yeah, like clockwork. They were bang, 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 going forward really nicely. Still a few issues going inside 50, but, you know, when you still win by 45 points, it's not a massive issue, but at least we know they can still play like they did back in the start of the season when we got 7 wins in a row. Third quarter happened. You know, was it a thing of umpires screwing the Bombers? No, but if you're a team that kicks 2 goals in the last half, then it's there's no way you're going to win a game. There's no way. And yes, Draper could have maybe should have gone to a free kick inside 50, but what are the chances he was going to kick a goal? You can't just go there. That's a guaranteed goal. Yeah, the Cats go kick a goal straight after that, but that's on the Bombers as well. The Bombers got to put the hand up, and go, well, we weren't switched on enough to stop them. We let the frustration get to our heads and not focus enough. So, yeah, you can blame the umpires if you want, but also Bombers just lost it a bit. Cats took full advantage. It's what good teams do. You take advantage when there's an opportunity, and I thought the Cats did, and finished it out really strongly. I thought this was the most complete game the Cats have played since that 7-game winning streak. It was very well organised, very well driven by Patrick Dangerfield and Tom Stewart. I thought they led really, really well. Ollie Dempsey was exceptional. It was just one of these games where you go, they remembered. They remembered how they play as a team. It was just really satisfying to see them perform and step up when it mattered. This was a big game and everyone stood up.
Love it. Love to see it. It's funny, Sambo, I'll hand pass to you, but I wasn't able to watch live on the night. I actually only watched the game. I've watched about 2.5 quarters of it. Actually, I haven't watched the end of it yet this afternoon. And when I saw the score when I got home on Saturday night, and then I went through Twitter and lining up some of the tweets with the first quarter, the first half. I was going into watching this game expecting that we looked absolutely awful in the first quarter, in the first half, that De Koning was terrible in the ruck, that Atkins should be dropped, that Jai Clark offers nothing, that there was all these tweets flying left, right, and center from those sort of timestamps. And what I'm watching, the last couple of hours just isn't matching up with, what's been written about. It's why you can never trust social media to be an accurate reflection of pretty much anything. What were your general takeaways from this 45-point win?
Yeah, I mean, I was stoked, really. It kind of the first quarter kind of felt how I expected it to feel. I felt like the Bombers would probably come out pretty strong. Um, I thought we would need to sort of do a bit of a temperature check. You know, we've not been in the best of form anyway, and it was a pretty quite a significantly looking significantly different looking team out there, not just with the ins and outs with Hawkins going out. No Bruins still obviously. But also, you know, some change up with SDK going into the ruck more or less permanently. I know he spent some time in there last week, but it was a little bit of a different scenario. You kind of weren't sure, as much as they said it wasn't. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was a bit of the theater, a bit of the brother v brother thing, just to try and throw some dirt in the Blues' eyes to just to psych him out, and then he goes back down for this game. But he was in there still, so yeah, I felt like it would be a bit of a tepid start from the Cats, and it was a little bit. Like, I don't think it was a bad start, but you could tell we were sort of feeling our way into it a little bit. We were going in a little bit cautiously, not in terms of game plan, but just mentality. I think we were a little bit shy. But then once we sort of started to find our feet, and some of the guys that ended up going on to have great games, like Dempsey, you know, they started doing pretty consistent, really good things, bringing their teammates into it, giving Essendon a little bit to think about in return. Um, I was really happy at halftime. I went, this is starting to look like our game, our kind of game here. That, like, you know, I think we use the ball terrifically well given the conditions, which hasn't been the case all year. You know, we've seen the conditions affect us negatively, so I think we've done some work on that. And when you look at our kicking efficiency, it was pretty good for how wet it was for so much of the game, and how much we kicked it too. I had it. Was it 240 something kicks? Yeah,
Yeah,
240.
244.
So our season average is 209.7, and we kicked we had 244 in this game. So, yeah, I was pretty happy with our disposal efficiency, sitting at, you know, close to 70. We're at 67.1%, and with 244 of those being kicks in torrential rain. It did feel a little bit like, although the Bombers looked pretty handy early, it felt like there was a sheer weight of numbers just piling up against them slowly, and I don't think you can resist that many entries from the Cats.
Mm.
Not that it was, you know, a record breaking number or anything, but I think when we get that many inside 50s, you know, anywhere anywhere around that number, I think we're looking pretty good. So yeah, it felt really good for me, and you know, I didn't know if we were going to touch on the umpiring or not. But you know, we normally don't when we feel like we've got the rough end of the stick, and I'm happy with that. But you know, if the general consensus is the opposite, then I think we're a little bit. It's a little bit less awkward to talk about it, because there's nothing worse than some of this stuff going around where it just sounds like people jumping in their wambulance. Do you know what I mean? Like, have a bit of self respect, and you know, like, it's everywhere. The saturation of this discussion about it, as if it was 6 free kicks for Geelong directly in front of goal, when it wasn't. There was a couple of free kicks that went Geelong's way. There was a few free kicks that should have gone Essendon's way that didn't. But like I said to John, there was, you know, there was some pretty shoddy calls both ways. There is every single game. There's so many calls, and I think when it's two pretty bad calls amongst 4 questionable ones, amongst the Cats really piling on and starting to play really well, and Essendon starting to make a lot of mistakes and feel the pressure, it probably felt a lot worse. But I think it's a whole lot of smoke for a very small fire for me when it comes to this umpiring thing. It's not like we got the weight of decisions our way. We lost the free kick count. We were about average. I think we're bang on our season average for the amount of free kicks we get every bloody game. And a lot of people, including not just Twitter, because I'm not really plugged into that, but in terms of the media, a lot of people are talking about momentum and how important momentum is, blah blah blah, and that's why the umpires gifted Geelong the game. Momentum had shifted by the time these decisions were made. Geelong had momentum, and I will grant you that when you have momentum, the umpires start to give you a bit of love. Like we've seen it go the other way, and it's absolutely true. If Bombers had the momentum and those instances happened, I think those calls go the Bombers' way. I do. I just think the umpires cannot help but get sucked into that a little bit. You see it all the time. Saw it with the Port game when we went and watched live. Could not buy a free kick, and then we started playing pretty well. We rested it back. We were on a bit of a comeback, and suddenly we were holding the balls and deliberate out of bounds out of nowhere. When you kind of go, all right, I don't know how we got that one, but we'll take it. And so I think people are, entitled to have their opinions and stuff. But I think the impact on the game can be questioned. So people say, well, it's the impact on the momentum. But I still think that Cats had the momentum at that point, and the umpiring was a symptom of that, not the cause of it. So yeah, if any Cats fans are out there kind of trembling because they think we were given the game and we didn't earn it, I do not think that's the case. I think the Cats took this game by the scruff of the neck and wrestled it away from the Bombers, and the Bombers were left pretty much helpless to do anything about it. And I think the umpires felt the same way. They also felt helpless to stop the Cats. But there's a couple of times that Patrick Dangerfield got lifted above someone's head without the ball at one point, and it was play on. There was those holding the ball free kicks where it's an incorrect disposal. That rule, I think, it's moving in the right direction, but there's so many things coming into making a holding the ball decision that I think there's a couple of the newer laws that are maybe getting prioritized. Sorry, not laws. Some of the new sort of interpretations are getting prioritized over things that are still true. So just quickly, I know I didn't want to get into it too much, but I have been forced to do a bit of thinking about it. Like the Tom Stewart one, when he tries to take on the tackle and then kind of throws his hand in a handballing action, but throws the ball. I think people are the umpires are really prioritizing this thing of it's not about so much about prior opportunity. It's about whether you attempted to get rid of it. And so they're kind of looking at that, and it's not correct. I'm not saying this is right, but I think that's why this keeps happening, because they're rewarding the fact that players are trying to get rid of it quicker to avoid this whole sling tackle, dangerous tackle, blah, blah, blah. So I feel like a lot of those are getting missed now, where a player kind of makes a handballing motion and the ball flies out and they go, oh, well, he attempted to get rid of it. That seems to have been really pushed to the forefront. Whereas you contrast that one with the Stengel tackle, where the guy didn't have prior, but he just didn't try to get rid of it. And so therefore that was holding the ball. So yeah, I don't 100% know how I feel about the rule, but yeah, I don't think it's just one of those things where I don't think it's that they're just favouring Geelong in that instance. This to me is pretty consistent with where they're trying to move this rule at the moment.
I mean, don't you think, were there actually people out there who have all along believed that the flopping fish motion, I'm trying to get rid of the ball, was a genuine attempt to get rid of the ball? Like, is that the standard of genuine? I don't know. It's I put up a tweet today while I was watching, because it just sort of struck me, because there's a free kick for Essendon in the first half where a guy gets his head ripped off. Fair enough. Literally 20 seconds later, the exact same thing happens to Jack Henry, and it's not paid. And so this is what happens. Like, my tweet was that the discourse around what is given or missed by umpires is inane. And I know we all get sucked in because it's an element beyond our team's control and it feels unfair. So I think that's something that definitely impacts, that our team can't do anything about it. like an umpire's interpretation, therefore it feels like this unfair, uncontrollable thing. But I would say in at least 95% of games, it isn't a decisive factor in determining the outcome. And I also don't think it's biased. I think if I reflect on how I was feeling about the Gold Coast game against the Cats earlier, there's things there that I would say about that game that I would take back in hindsight. It's silly. It's silly to think, in my opinion, that it's biased. It's a very hard job. I think the AFL have muddied it with how they constantly tinker and tweak rules. I mean, in this game, I was watching the first half, and a player gets pinged for insufficient attempt, and the commentator actually calls it, "Oh, that was an insufficient attempt to keep the ball in." And I thought, oh my goodness, that's one of the first times I've heard a commentator say that, instead of, oh, he's paid him deliberate. Like, if it takes so long for broadcasters to come around and get their head around the rules, I think it takes a lot longer for fans to do it. And the other thing I'd just say is, all this stuff, the discourse about umpiring and about basically anything to do with footy, I would say 80 to 90% of conversations on Twitter, in pubs, it's mostly just noise to pass the time. None of us are learning anything. Like, the intelligent, illuminating, uplifting, intriguing, thought-provoking conversations you have about footy are the exceptions, not the rule. Because the majority of people are still talking about football like it's 1985. I think just my little cap off on first half thoughts, because I'm not going to have a lot of second half thoughts to give you, because I haven't watched the second half yet. I'm going to let you guys sort of chop that up for people. Is just that I thought there was an intensity about Geelong that I really liked in terms of our tackling. What did we end up laying? It was like 80 something tackles in the end. 78 tackles. I loved the way we moved the football. That kick from Tui to Dempsey that eventually set up Duncan for the goal was glorious. And I think if we look elsewhere other than umpiring as to what dictated the outcome, I would say the fact that Geelong scored on 44% of their entries inside 50 they scored on 25% of their entries inside 50. And when you narrow that to how many goals you got from your inside 50s, Geelong scored a goal on nearly 29% of their entries. Essendon on just 15% of entries. So they go inside 50 60 times and can't kick a winning score. Geelong go inside 56 times and kick over 100. I think that is a very, very big difference in your ball game. And the Cats just, they found a way after sort of the early part of that second term to close down what the Bombers were doing. And I thought we were playing really good footy for a lot of that first half. It's just that the commentators sometimes commentate Geelong like they're down by 30 points. There was a goal, I can't remember who kicked it. It might have even been the Dempsey one off the ground, where they said Geelong really needed that. It's like, that was to narrow the margin to like 7 or 8 points or something. So
I said that, I don't know if you were in the chat that I said that to John, but there's literally a quote where they were like, Geelong barely hanging on here, and the margin was 7 points.
Yes.
Barely hanging on.
What do you have more general thoughts, or can we talk about differences from first half to second half that allowed the Cats to run away with this game? Do you want to talk about contrast, like different things from what we've seen, say the last, 2 months almost, where the Cats have lost a lot of games to this game against the Bombers? Do you want to talk about some of the positional change stuff or the debut of Lawson Humphreys? Where do you want to take it, Chaps?
I'll start with Lawson Humphreys. Get in the chat. I think it was a pretty exceptional debut. Like, everything you had told us about him was true. Like, this really well composed, level-headed, smart, ferocious and footy hungry guy, was there the entire game. I watched his dad's speech, and when he was giving the jumper, and he was talking, just go out there, play how you know how to play. You know your teammates, you know the game plan, you know your style. Just go out there and do your thing, and did all this stuff like you'll be amazing and all this, and everything his dad said was basically came true. I was like, yep, he's a really mature young guy who's come in and earned his spot. I mean, there was one moment that really blew me away. I think he was going for a ball. He fell over. I think it bounced under him and he fell over, but he was back up, pressuring the Bombers player straight away and caused a turnover. That's like, that is just, that's what you want to see from a first game. Is just go out there, play the way you know how to play. And yeah, I thought it was just a really impressive, really dynamic, and freed up Stewart a lot as well. Like Stewart was able to play midfield for most of the game because there was this young guy coming in who earned or was given the trust to play a really important role in the back line and absolutely thrived and delivered. Nearly got a goal. That would have been some goal, but tell you what, his speed, his ability, able to kick off left and right, and his kicking ability. You were talking about his kicking, Jake, and yeah, everything you said was true, and he displayed it this game, and it's going to be hard to drop him. Like that was a really exceptional debut. But yeah, well done to him. Earned it. Was brought in at the right time by the looks of it when he was ready. And look what happens when you hold players back that little bit longer just to make sure that they can be ready in a big game. Like this was a massive game for the Cats. Like this could have been dropped us way outside the 8 or get us to 5th, and he didn't seem phased. He just looked like he was having a blast. That's the other thing. The Cats, the whole team, looked like they're having fun again. That's one thing I really noticed. They're all having a really great time and just working so well. And yeah, he did an exceptional job.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, like positionally and like selection wise. Like if you'd if you'd asked me to project our score if we were missing Ollie Henry and Hawkins and predict Essendon's score if you told me that neither Sam DeConey nor Tom Stewart were going to play in the back line. I don't know. I don't know exactly what I would have picked, but it wouldn't have been this final scoreline. Like, that was it's. I think it just opens up a whole world of possibilities too. I don't think these players need to stay where they are, but it's nice to have these. We were talking about that with depth last week of the Cats not necessarily having a lack of depth of talented players, but a lack of depth of tools in the tool belt. How many plans, plan A downwards, like how many backup plans have you got? And it's starting to look, it's only been, 1 week of it. But if you take this as any kind of evidence, it does look like we've got some other strings to the bow, which is nice. But the other thing I was just on Lawson, I felt like they really started to bring him into the game a little bit in the second half, particularly early. And I don't think this is any kind of conscious effort, but it's sort of similar to what we were talking about, just in terms of subconscious bias when you're playing sport, how you're going to be most likely to kick it to your brother, and then next likeliest to kick it to your best friend. Do you know what I mean? Like just from like that innate thing. If you're playing out there with your sister or your brother, you're gonna have that connection and kind of just know where they are. And then a friend that you've known for years and years and years, they'll be the next. And you can have to sort of really be really conscious to try and bring in other people. We were talking about this just with social soccer, and when you've got little kids or people you don't know, try and bring them into the game, and it's a real effort to make yourself do that. And it was funny that we'd had that conversation because watching that first quarter, there was a couple of times where I was like, Lawson is cherry ripe to take a kick out of the back here, and like Zach Guthrie or Duncan or College Asney would turn and look for someone else. And like I said, I don't think it was an intentional thing at all, but it was just like that innate, like you see someone, you go, oh yeah, he's in a good spot and I trust him and kick it. And they really, it's sort of happened gradually. And then, I thought it was really nice once they started to bring him in, and, it only took a couple of options. And suddenly it was like they were looking for him every time. He was the one that they wanted to kick it to take it out of traffic, to take it out of trouble. So it was a really nice sort of just minute evolution within the course of the 4 quarters. So
And
yeah,
also,
it was really impressive.
sorry to butt in there. It's just
No.
him kicking it out from the goal square after a point. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure he brought it up then. Sorry, but I was
No.
no. Yeah, I thought I was doing something a little bit different there. Yeah, I thought that was really something that just cemented that. Yep, they know he can kick well if they're getting the debutant to kick the out of the center goal square after a point. Like that would be a pretty high pressure position to take a kick. It doesn't look that difficult, but it only takes a minute little skill error to stuff that up. But he didn't, and I think it's hats off to him that he got that trust so quick that he can go, "Yep, I've got this. I've got this. I've got this kick out." It was really
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm touching on like the overall changes and the way the game played, and you sort of mentioned it in terms of the Cats having fun. Like, they really looked like they had that will to go again. Like, it sometimes makes me really nervous because I think, you don't have to go back too far to the Cats never wanting to play on, never wanting to rush. You know what I mean? It was always kick to kick and look for a simple mark to move it forward. And so it does give me this sort of instinctive, you know, clenching when it happens. Like when you get paid a free kick or the mark, and they kind of play on without even having looked to see what's what's ahead of them. They just run. But I think that's something that we haven't seen as much of, and that could be oppositional too. Like, it could be the way opposition have structured up against us to try and prevent that. So I will allow that, but from my point of view, with the knowledge I have available to me, it looked more like a mentality shift as opposed to an availability of options. It really looked like that was just plan A, like, take a screaming mark, get your head ripped off and get a free kick, whatever it was. It was like, get to your feet and move it. And it's so fun to watch. It's so exciting when the teams sort of synced in and doing that. And I do think it took them a while to get that last disposal inside 50. We often talk about Bruin, who wasn't in, obviously, and even Dempsey, I think, can sometimes do that last kick. But there's some other guys too that aren't as obviously like, the young guys, but like Holmes. Like, I do think sometimes he's tremendous player, fantastic, like one of our key players. But sometimes when it's him doing that last kick into the 50, he does still tend to sky it to the square a little bit rather than look for that leading option. So you sort of forget, we focus so much on the really young guys, and you kind of forget how some of those other players, like Holmes, are also still developing players. Like, they're not, they haven't been playing for 10 years or anything. So, I felt like, there was still some moments of that, but in the back half, I thought our delivery inside 50 was way better. And even when it wasn't, I think the addition of Rowan allowed those slightly too high, slightly too floaty kicks into the 50 to still provide an opportunity, because Rowan can crash and bring it down. And then we have such an army of dudes around him now who can crumb and kick off the ground and get those really nice over the back goals, like that one that Dempsey got with the turn of the body and just soccer it through. So Rowan from the first bounce every week, please. I know we try not to get in on this whole, like, what are you doing? Select this person. But Rowan's my one allowance. I will request that they put him. It was like 2 weeks ago that I was like, he needs a full game to have his, and I think the stats I talked about looked freakishly like his stats this week, where I was like, he might only have 12 touches, but like, 6 of those might be score involvements, and he'll kick 2 or 3 goals of them. And he's kind of on the on that line, but he needs the full game to get those 10, 12 touches. And I thought that he did allow for some of that more chaos ball long into the 50. He allowed that to actually be a bit more effective, even if he didn't take the mark. He was there causing trouble.
Yeah.
He's exceptional. I think, Rowan. It's a shame that through injury and other factors that he's probably not played as many minutes. When you look back at the total minutes he played in the AFL and the total minutes that were available to him in terms of games and stuff, it'll be too few. He played too few minutes because he is one of the most exciting players. The goal he helped contribute when the ball was coming in and he just jumped blind and helped spoil it down. Like, I know there's an element of luck, but you also make a bit of your own luck by even trying it. You know, not everyone would do it. Not everyone might time it as well as he did. He just is. He's dangerous. He's like Jaws. I think, you know, the defenders can almost hear his theme music when he's around the forward 50, and it's so good to see him get his rewards. And it's also so good to see he just brings other players into the game. Obviously, 2 goals for him and 3 goal assists. Ollie Dempsey's got that trait as well. 2 goals for him, 2 goal assists. I want to talk about a couple of players because obviously we're going to talk about our votes in about 10, 15 minutes. But I want to talk about some players who've been copping some flack. And just looking at how statistically and how to your eyeballs maybe, it just doesn't quite marry up. Like, it's funny, Ollie Dempsey, I think, is a very clever player. He's going to be in our votes conversation. Went at 37.5% kicking efficiency on the weekend. That was only better than Jeremy Cameron, who went at 37.5%, Jai Clark, and Sam DeConey. Brian Myers, renowned for having a great kick, 41.7% despite kicking efficiency. Gary Rowan, 45.5% kicking efficiency on the evening. Now, I'm not trying to crap on these players. What I'm doing is I'm just then going to offset that against some players who are criticised for their kicking. Tom Atkins being one, up at 61.5% kicking efficiency, inside, I believe, Geelong's top 10 for kicking efficiency. Max Holmes put up a tweet a few weeks ago comparing his stats in his first 4 years to Dangerfield, and someone said, yeah, well, now teach him how to kick. Well, he's up over 65%, I believe it was last week. He's at 73.3% in the wet this week. Specifically, though, I want your opinion on this player, Jack Henry. Jack Henry, again, has copped the brunt of Twitter's scorn. And I guess I just don't get it, chaps. Jack Henry faced 7 contested defensive one-on-ones on the weekend. I was just going to bring those stats up if I can find where they are. Defense. Anyway, the point being is he faced 7. He lost 3 of them. The next closest player on the ground for either team faced 3 contested defensive one-on-ones. He had, I believe, was it equal game high spoils? I think it was Jack Henry. It wasn't even equal. It was 7 game high spoils clear of Jaden Laverty's 6. I believe he led the game for intercept possessions, or at least the team. What's the deal? Is Jack
equal
Henry
team
not
second?
playing?
Equal game second for intercept possessions, 7.
What's the go? Is this? I'm not seeing why Jack Henry's copping it personally. I don't think he's playing particularly poorly, and in some ways, I think he's playing well in pretty tricky situations.
I was going to say, like, when they were talking bad about him, like, during the losing streak, pretty terribly. And, like, what's he meant to do when the midfield isn't firing, when the ball's coming in that many times, and also really good kicks by the opposition? Like, there's only so much a defender can do to defend a kick that's, like, laced out. Or, you know, when you're under constant siege, constantly getting barraged from the midfield really quickly as well. Like sometimes you just don't have the time to react. But yeah, I thought this week he looked back to his normal best because the midfield was up and running, the forward line was up and running, and that was able to then get the defensive unit to work as a team again. And it's just like, it's not you can't just have it's not like the NFL where you got your defensive team and your midfield attacking team.
Mm.
Like they're two separate teams. AFL, everyone's got to play as a unit, and when one group of players isn't pulling the weight and not doing a job as well as they probably should, then obviously everyone else is going to struggle a lot. So yeah, I think it's a bit unfair on any of the defenders getting whacked so badly, especially when they were getting absolutely besieged. But
Mm.
I thought everyone in defense worked really well. Yeah, there was times when it didn't, but that's football. Sometimes you just get a bad positioned out of you get worked out of position by a forward player. It's forward craft. Some forwards are more clever than other forwards. They know how to work defenders out of position, and I think it's pretty ridiculous. And also playing defense would be incredibly difficult. There's such a fine margin from giving away free kick, from chopping the arms or holding.
Mm.
The margin for that is crazy compared to what a forward line player can get away with. So they've got a really tough job, and I think he's doing an exceptional job.
Well, I just don't. I suppose I don't get it. It's like there's like as I was saying, there's these tweets flying out in the first quarter that just didn't match up what I'm seeing outside the heat of the moment. I'm watching the game 3 days later. I'm just going, geez, Atkins copped it from people in the first quarter. And actually, I thought he was among our best. Sam DeConing, copped it. I thought Sam DeConing almost made it into my votes. I think he was the first or
Yeah,
second player, sort of just outside of my votes group. Um, I think too, people talk about we should put Sam DeConing back there. I think Sam DeConing is the best option if you're going to use one of the tall backs to play ruck. It's Sam DeConing. He's a good 10 centimeters taller than Jack Henry, for instance. I think they're working some things out on the go. They're shuffling the deck a bit, and I don't know. I just don't get why. I think we would notice a significant absence if Jack Henry was dropped, as Twitter has asked
Yeah.
for at different times. Sambo, I don't know if you want to continue the conversation about Jack Henry. There's probably a couple of other players I'd be interested to get your thoughts on as well. But yeah, do you have extra
Well,
stuff
through.
on?
No, I more or less agree with you guys. I was just going to say, I think as far as the way people dunk on players, I think it was Tui was the last one we were talking about. Getting like dunked on this way and asked to be dropped, and it was because he'd had like maybe two obvious clangers, like two pretty bad ones. But it's just easy for people to remember, like those things. It's like really, really, really good moments. They stick out, and at the end, like it's and I will fully admit it's this whole process. We've been doing this for 3 or 4 years now. 4 years, I don't know.
Nearly four. Nearly four.
So doing this and like the concept of doing votes, and when you actually start having to watch the game, like I will, as we will see, I certainly I certainly allow subjectivity to enter into the equation. But just in terms of like suddenly having, a few hundred people that might go, why the hell did you give that guy votes? And you just have to back it up a little bit. Like it's been a real journey for me too to like eyeball the game and watch it and go, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? Or going, oh, he was great, he was awesome, and then go back and rewatch things and look at the stats as well, and not just use any one of those things because I think just basing off stats is also incorrect, like the incorrect way to approach it. But I think the point of that is that I think when you're looking for things to blame, when you're feeling upset or you're feeling really happy, oh, we won that game, and you think back and you go, oh, those goals, they were amazing. You're not going to think about all those other minute moments that go into making up a winning performance. And during that
Mm.
game, if it didn't feel like things were going well, people are probably focusing on some of the negatives, and maybe Jack
Mm.
Henry gave up maybe those 3 that he lost may have been in the first half. Maybe he didn't lose one after that, and it's just something that people focus on. So I don't think it's the correct opinion, but I think it comes from watching a game and just kind of going off gut instinct, and then not having any reason to go back and check that, which is basically what recording this podcast has become. Is is a real good self editor where you watch a game and have a feeling on it, and then you go, "Oh, I got to talk about it," so I should probably actually go and check and see how untethered from reality my takeaways are. But just in general, and before you throw some other players, I thought this is the best the backline has looked in many weeks, and I think it's it's not to be sniffed at that we kept Essendon to 9 goals. The season average is 12.3. Their season average behinds is 10.6, and we only allowed them 6 of those. So I thought we were operating really well out of the back, to be honest. Couple of clangers here and there, but there's hundreds of thousands of moments in an AFL game, and they can't all be winners.
Yeah, it's almost a bit like I was thinking this when we were talking earlier, like umpires. We concentrate on the moments they get wrong, and it's almost like players fall into this category as well. They do one thing wrong, and it's like such and such has had a terrible game. So, yeah, not as you just said. You've summed it up. Games full of thousands and thousands of moments, and they're not all going to be perfect executions of skill. And understanding. So, yeah. Let's move on to a couple of quick players before we do our votes. I will be honest and say Jack Bowes isn't in my votes, but I think we should talk about him. I'll let you lead the conversation, Sambo. Simply setting you up by saying this. I sent out a tweet while I was watching. Which was, I feel like Jack Bowes is some sort of footballing artist who specializes in making his creations entirely off whim and insane instinct. Sometimes he will produce a canvas of no appeal or worth, and then he'll follow it up with a piece of truly unbridled genius. Is that about how you feel about Jack Bowes? What did you think of his game on the weekend?
I need a bit of time to digest that. Like he's also, he's also in my votes. Like I thought he was really solid. I think this is he's almost like game on, game off at the moment. Like with his form, like I feel like he has that blinder and then disappears for a week, and then has another blinder and disappears for a week. So yeah, I thought he was really good. He wasn't really in my votes conversation. But I did think he was really good. He's almost the opposite, not the opposite, but he's so different to Gary Rowan, where Gary Rowan doesn't get involved all the time on the stats sheet, but generally he makes an impact. Whereas I think Bowes is just always buzzing around, always doing something. But it's like you say, like he goes for so much that like a large portion of the time, like 50% of the time, it doesn't really amount to anything. But then when it does, it's really noteworthy. When he takes those moments to step through traffic, like he did, a couple of rounds ago, and you just go, where do those players go? Those tackles just like evaporated in a mist around him, like really, sort of just strange, ethereal moments. But yeah, no, I don't have a lot to add on Bowes. I thought he was really good. I thought he was, I guess I thought he was crucial. I do think he was crucial to the way the team operated and the way we won it. And he was probably a little bit unlucky not to get into my votes this week, but it's probably the hardest week I've had in a while. It's the difference between a win and a loss, I find. I actually find it easier generally to give the votes when we've had a down week, because there'll be a handful of players that you go, oh man, they tried. But when you've won and the whole team played really well, it's really tough to separate them.
Johnny, get a hand pass to you on a specific player, if I might. Want your thoughts? Oh, where'd it go? Oh, yes. I want your thoughts on Mitch Nevitt. Nevitt came in. Obviously, we had Lawson Humphreys rewarded for his excellent form in the VFL. Mitch Nevitt is as well. A couple of great back-to-back weeks. He has a goal, 13 disposals, 10 of those by foot, 8 marks, 5 tackles, a clearance, 300 meters gained on 13 disposals, as well as an 84.6% disposal efficiency. That's the stats, but what did you think watching him now as opposed to maybe the last time he played for the team, which I think was back in 2023?
It was a long time since. It feels like it's been a long time, but I
Mm.
feel like the wait was worth it. The wait was definitely worth it to see Mitch Nevitt. Didn't do like a whole lot. Didn't get the whole lot of the ball, or wasn't involved in all the plays. But what he did was enough for me. I think he's shown a really good amount. I feel like, again, similar to Dempsey, I feel like it seems like he's tearing up in the VFL, like nearly too good for the VFL, and
Mm.
seems pretty well at home in the AFL. Yeah, I really enjoyed that game. He does a few good moments. That goal was really exceptional. Just like ducking, dip diving around the player, and then a snap on the boundary straight through the middle to get
Mm.
that last goal, to get that extra percentage to get over the Pies. Like that was another big moment by a young guy, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like he had some crucial moments and looked at home. And
Mm.
another one of those low picks. Was he a low pick or was he a rookie? I can't remember now, but yeah,
I can't remember off the top of my head.
wherever they found him, they found another really solid, dependable young guy who, in the future, will be one of those cogs that go, how the Cats can't perform as well as they usually would without him. And yeah, I think there's a bright future for him because yeah, what he brought was good speed, good foot kicking, for kicking
Mm.
work, all the skills you need he brought along, and like yeah, just another solid game by a young guy who had
Mm.
who's got this opportunity and he's taken it with both hands. And like again, it's going to be tough to find a way for someone else to take his spot because yeah, like he did everything that would be required of him, and then to kick that goal was just a little bit of extra on top.
As you've just pointed out, a very, very important contribution to lift us over Collingwood. That cannot be understated. I like that. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I didn't realize that was makes sense. Look, we're going nearly an hour now, so I think we probably do need to get into our votes. There's a bunch of other players. Maybe we'll be able to get to some of them in the Patreon section. I know we want to lead off that conversation with Sam de Koning in the ruck, but we might be able to get to some thoughts on guys like Shannon Neal was one I thought that came to mind that'd probably be good to talk about among some others. But let's do our votes now. Actually, Johnny, you can lead us off here, and then Sambo, and then
Yep.
I'll round out the trio.
Votes are really really difficult this week. As I said to you guys when we got into the show, I still hadn't done them, and I had to go, who earns the votes? Because there's a lot of players that definitely are up there as players that should get votes. I'll do a honourable mention to Gary Rowan. Sorry, Sam, I just couldn't squeeze him. I knew he was going to get.
Shame.
I know he's going to get maximum
He'll
votes
make
from
up.
you.
He'll make up for it.
I already know that. That's a guarantee. So yeah, I thought that's Gary Rowan showed the reason why we should play him for a full game. Like that was just a Gary Rowan game required when we needed it. Like the hero we need and the hero we deserve, and like he just did
Hero
what
we got.
we need. He knew the stage, he knew the situation, he knew the meaning of this game. It's like, I'm just going to go out there and help win this game, and he did. But my one vote, again, to Tom Stewart. I thought this was just a classic Tommy Stewart game in the midfield. Looked right at home, like just looked like he belonged there, and he can still go back, perform out back. But yeah, just some big moments from Tommy Stewart. Like the couple of big marks, intercept marks were crucial. Set up plays, setting up goals, doing everything. Working with Paddy Dangerfield was just exquisite. It's like seeing Joel Selwood, Paddy Dangerfield working together again. Just got your
I
loins
shouldn't.
juicy.
I shouldn't be reading memes while like mid show. Like
You shouldn't.
I'm consulting Twitter while we watch the show because like while we record the show because I'm always looking for little news bits that might drop while we're recording, like tribunal or injury. But just occasionally I come across something really funny and then I cannot hold it together. So it seems like I'm laughing at your votes. I'm not. I'm laughing at a very funny meme.
All good.
Sorry, on you go.
I'm giving 2 votes to Patrick Dangerfield, P Daddy. That was a classic Dangerfield game when we needed him. He stood up when the team needed him to stand up, and had, again, like Tom Stewart, had some really crucial, impactful moments. There was a mark, like the mark on the wing. I think it was in the second or third quarter where he just marked it, landed, and ran and set up pretty sure it was set up a goal. Got tackled, and Seal was able to break the tackle as well. Yeah, it's just some really classic Dangerfield moments. And it's like, this is what we need. Good moments from the captain. And I'm giving my 3 votes to Oliver Dempsey. This was one that's going to set him up to hopefully win the Rising Star. That was just an exceptional game by the young guy. Fast becoming my absolute favourite player in the Cats. But his smarts, his ability, his just awareness of everything going on in the game is just next level. And he should be talked about as one of the best young players in the game. But unfortunately, he's not. But I don't care because he's a cat.
Sambo.
My 1 is going to Patrick Dangerfield. P Daddy. Yeah, I think he may step up even more in big moments, but I think at this point in his career, as a captain, I think this is pretty pitch perfect for what we can expect and need from him. He's not going to get 38 disposals and 4 goals, and like I think he's not. I'm not trying to diminish his input, but his input was just it was more his presence than his stats. I think his presence on not only on his teammates, but his presence on the opposition. It was one of those games where it really, really struck me how massive he is, like personality kind of, but like just physically as well. He's obviously not the tallest player, but just the the density of him. He's not, like he's not the tallest or like it just sometimes when he was in a contest against an Essendon player, I was like, it literally looks like a dad playing with his teenage son right now. And like the teenage son might be a bit taller. He might have, might be a head and shoulders above dad, but he's about to get ragdolled. And so yeah, I thought Dangerfield's presence was immense, and that's kind of, if he can do that for us, 60% of the games of a season until he retires, I think that's I'm pretty happy with that from Dangerfield. My 2 are going to Ollie Dempsey. Should he get 3? Yes. Is he getting my 3? No.
Do you care, Sam?
No, not really. But I do need to acknowledge, I'm not saying I'm rising above subjectivity, but I'm admitting that I'm being influenced by subjectivity here. Ollie Dempsey obviously was fantastic. But my 3 are going to Gary Rowan. I just he's not. I don't know how many years we've got left of him, and they're not giving me enough full games where I can give him votes. Once upon a time, I used to be able to hide my bias a little bit with just one vote here and there, just slowly feeding one vote out per game, slowly trying to get him up into the top 5 in our MVP votes. But now I have to give him 3.
This is why we've got our own podcast, because we can be however biased we want to be. As I said to you after a while I was watching the game, I was like, I know exactly who's getting your 3 votes.
To be honest though, Dempsey had my 3 up until that point, until around about that point, and
I knew you were lying to yourself, Sam, when you sent back. You was like, "There's a few of this." Like, no, it's
it was
not.
tough. It was tough. Well, yeah, there's. I mean, he'd already had a great game, but he just didn't. I thought his influence was pretty much start to finish. It was sprinkled. It wasn't just when we were up against it, and it also wasn't just once we'd got him on the ropes and we were really flying high. As always with Gary Rowan, what he brings is, he brings what he brings consistently, whether we're on the ropes or we've got them on the ropes. And yeah, I think he was team high for goal assists, equal team third for score involvements, equal team second for inside 50s. Yeah, I thought he was just immense. And some of those moments are like I said, when you watch a game, there's moments that stand out to you. And so many of those moments were Gary Rowan. So regardless of the stat line and that kind of thing, that they've just stuck with me, as they often do.
I like it. I'm not that far off either of you chaps. I've got sort of a similar mix. As I said, Sam de Koning actually was very close to getting into my votes, as was Jack Bowes, as was probably another couple of other players as well. But I have gone with one vote to Tom Stewart. You just look across his production, 70% kicking efficiency, couple of contested marks. What else did he have? 8 marks, which was equal team high with Mitch Nevitt. 17 kicks, 384 meters gained, 23 total disposals. And then you add in 5 tackles, you add in 4 clearances. We got out of Tom Stewart a hybrid midfielder / halfback game. I don't mind if this is the solution to helping remove that tag. I'm all in favor of it, and it's 2 birds, 1 stone. We need another strong, aggressive body around the footy. Tommy Stewart is that and more. Gary Rowan actually does get my 2 votes, Sambo. As I said, I've only watched the first half, and he was dynamic in the first half. I think that something I think we talk about all the time with like the Brownlow is sometimes it feels that we reward volume more than impact.
Mm.
And of course, a player having a high volume of touches or clearances or whatever it might be can have impact. But, you've also got to look at players who do a lot with 15 touches or whatever it might be as well. I mean, he had a direct hand in 5 of Geelong's 16 goals. That's, just a touch under a third of their goals. He took 7 marks. He was a constant threat down there. That forward line, without 2 of the key cogs from last year, without Ollie Henry, without Tom Hawkins, had, every right to maybe look a bit toothless, and it looked anything but. It looked as most befanged as it has all season, really. And I think Gary Rowan was a big part of it. So I guess my 2 votes. My 3 votes go to Ollie Dempsey. He is a genuine superstar in the making. And in fact, I don't know how much making there is left to do. There's obviously development that will still happen over the next few seasons, but he is on pace for 20 or more goals. He's already kicked 13 goals, 6. He's on pace for 20 or more goal assists. He's already at 15. He's averaging a tick under 18 disposals per game. I think he is going to play a lot of games of footy for the Cats and at a very high level. He's so clever. He's so intelligent. I just love, like, if you can get him the ball, what did he have? This 25 touches. 25 touches from Holly Dempsey is absolute gold. So let's keep him rolling. He had 2 goals, 2 goal assists to go with his 25 touches, 4 tackles, 412 meters gained, and just a lot of really smart stuff. All right. That is all for the public part of the show. We're going to duck now and talk about Sam de Koning in the ruck, maybe a couple of other players as well for about the next 20 minutes. So if you want to get that part of the show, make sure you come on over to the Hoops Crew Patreon. But thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. And until next time, go Cats!
Go Cats.
Go get it.